Hey guys, welcome back to Tutorial Horizon. In this video, we are going to solve yet another interview problem, minimum interval removal problem. We have taken this problem from the Leetcode. So let's read the problem statement. Given an array of intervals where each interval is represented as interval I, start I and end I. So for each interval, we have given the start time and the end time. The goal is to determine the minimum number of intervals to remove to make rest of the intervals non-overlapping. And intervals that touch at single point, for example, this interval starts at 1, ends at 2, and another interval starts at 2 and ends at 3 are considered non-overlapping. And you must ensure that remaining intervals do not overlap. So let's take few examples. In example 1, we have 4 intervals. Let's draw this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So first interval 1 to 4, second interval 3 to 5, third 5 to 6, and 2 to 3. So here we can see these two events overlap and these two events overlap. So if we remove the event 1 to 4, right, then rest of the events from 2 to 3, 3 to 5, and 5 to 6 would be non-overlapping. So our output would be 1. And we will be removing the first event. So removing event 3, 5, okay, this is incorrect. I'll correct it later. This should be 1, 4 makes the intervals non-overlapping. Okay. In example 2, we have 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, and 4, 5. So clearly these three events are overlapping, right? So we need to remove any of the two events to make the rest of the events non-overlapping. So output is 2. And in example 3, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. So all are non-overlapping. So output is 0. So let's solve this problem. So here we have given 4 intervals and we are going to solve this problem using greedy algorithm. So first we need to bring these intervals in some order. Okay. So we'll sort the intervals by their end time. So this will ensure that we always process intervals with earliest time first, maximizing room for the subsequent intervals. Okay. So sort by end time. So let's see, this is 3. So that would be the first interval, and then 3, 4, and then this ends at 5. So 3, 5, and then at last 5, 6. Now next, we'll iterate through the sorted intervals, track the previous interval, and compare it with the current one. Okay, so let's iterate. So we'll start with 2, 3. So we have nothing to compare with. So this will become the previous interval, 2, 3. So next interval is 1, 4. So we'll compare the start time of current interval with the end time of previous interval. And if start time is less than the end time, so start time of the current interval is greater than the end time of previous interval. So that means the current interval and the previous interval are overlapping. So let's say we have a variable, and when we find the overlapping, we'll increment the count by 1. So that means we need to remove the current interval. Now the next interval, now the start time of the current interval is 3 and the end time of the previous interval is 3. So these two are non-overlapping. So in that case, we'll update the previous interval to the current interval. So that will become 3, 5. Now let's move to the next interval. So here the start time is 5 and previous interval end time is 5. So these two are again non-overlapping. So we'll update the previous interval to 5, 6. And now we are done with the iteration. So this count is going to be our final answer. Now let's write the code for this problem. So we'll create a new file, minimum interval removal. Now let's create a new function, remove overlapping intervals, and this will take intervals as input. So first we'll sort the intervals by their n times. So intervals dot sort, and key would be the n time. So x of 1. Now let's print the sorted intervals. So intervals, remove overlapping intervals, and let's run this. Okay, so our intervals are sorted by their n time. Now next we need to iterate through the sorted intervals. So for I in range, so we'll start with the second interval. So the first interval will become the previous interval. So intervals 0. And let's have the count as well. Initialize it to 0. Current interval would be intervals of I. Next, we'll check for the overlap. So if previous of 1, so that is end time, is greater than current of 0, so that is the start time. So if that is true, that means we have found the overlap. So we'll increment the count. Else, replace previous interval with current interval. And at the end, we'll return the count. So let's run this. Okay, we need to print the count. Okay, so output is 1. Now let's have one more example. So let's say we have one more 1, 4 and 3, 5, 5, 6, 2, 3. Let's have one more here, 8, 9. Let's run this. So 2, 3. We need to remove these two. So this is not correct. Output is 1. It should be 2. So let's check that. Let's check that. Okay, return should be outside of for loop. Now let's run this. Okay, now the output is 2. So now this is correct. Okay, now let's go back to the problem. So approach to solve the problem, greedy algorithm, sort intervals by their n time, iterate through sorted intervals, count the overlapping intervals. Okay, we just wrote the Python code for this, and below you can find the Java code as well. You can click here to run this code, and yeah, this is how we'll solve this problem. If you have found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you guys in the next video with a new problem. Bye bye.